Miles, welcome to Guernsey. Thank you very much for coming over. Obviously, there's been a very long-standing relationship between Guernsey Finance and the City UK. You spoke at our funds forum in 2021, I think it was. We come and see you on a regular basis. Our chairman sits on the Leadership Council. Steph, who's one of our staff members, is on the Next Generation Leadership Council. Could you just give us a little bit why you're over in Guernsey at the moment?
Well, first of all, I never turned down an opportunity to turn up to Guernsey. It's a fantastic place. It's an absolutely beautiful island, and I love coming here. Alongside that, we have a lot of shared challenges, and there's a really close relationship, not just between our organisations, but between Guernsey and the UK as international financial centres. It's a symbiotic relationship. Guernsey and the UK I consider to be two pillars of what I call the British family of financial centres. And when we look at the challenges that our industry faces, the challenges that our financial centres face, and the opportunities that they have, excuse me, there's a lot that we have in common, a lot of areas of mutual interest, and I think it's always good to collaborate and partner on those wherever we can.
Absolutely. And as I mentioned, 2021 Funds Forum, we've had the pandemic, there's various economic challenges out there. What are you seeing from a UK point of view? What are those kind of macroeconomic challenges that the City UK is focusing on the medium to long term there?
I think both for the UK and for Guernsey, we're in a period of history of really tumultuous change, and this a lot of this sort of comes from the change in the nature of globalisation. People are talking about decoupling. There's a risk of regulatory fragmentation. We've seen off the back of the barbaric invasion of Ukraine by Russia an enormous macroeconomic and diplomatic set of consequences that I think have called into question a lot of the certainties, whether that's in energy policy or defence policy or other areas that we've seen. So this is a time of real challenge, and globalisation, people fear, is going backwards, and that will have consequences for centres like the UK and Guernsey that have always prided themselves on being open to international investment and helping those flows, which ultimately have helped raise billions of people out of poverty over the last 30 years. That said, I don't think we need to be all doom and gloom. I think there's more than enough doom and gloom to go around. I think it's always important to look at where the opportunities are. And when I think about the really exciting things that we're seeing in sustainable finance, where I know Guernsey is doing some terrific work, and we're doing work similarly in the City UK on those issues. When I look at the growth of tech and fintech, this is opening all sorts of possibilities for customers and clients that might not have been possible even a few years ago. And for centres like Guernsey and the UK to be successful over the long term, we need to lean into the future.
Absolutely. I'm glad you mentioned green sustainability. That was going to be my next question. Guernsey's really putting itself out there as a force for global good. We have our Guernsey Green Fund. We have Sustainable Finance Week, which is growing in stature year on year. So that's a big projection we're making into the international market. I know very much City UK and the UK is looking at that, how they can drive that forwards as well. You've recently commissioned a paper from City UK point of view. Can you just tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So Guernsey's obviously been doing a huge amount of work here and contributing a huge amount to the sort of leading edge thinking. One of the things that we think is going to be really important here is the role of the private sector in moving towards net zero. This is an enormous challenge. It's a global challenge. It's too big for the state. It's too big for the private sector. This is an area where we will need to find ways for governments and businesses to work together. McKinsey did a report recently that suggested that the amount of investment that's going to be required to get us to net zero is going to be $9.2 trillion a year. At the moment, we're at 5.7 trillion. So where's that gap going to be filled from at a time of real fiscal tightness? We've got to find ways of helping the private sector to help fill that gap. And that's something that allows us to play a role in supporting the move towards net zero. That's a benefit for the globe. It's a benefit for people. It's a benefit for businesses. But also from the point of view of companies, we do good by doing good. And that allows us to get those sorts of investments and provide support for pension funds or whatever it may be. I think there's a real challenge here in terms of making sure that we're making progress on standards, for instance. I think the ISB standards are a great way forward in trying to reduce the lack of interoperability between many of the standards that exist at the moment. But I think this is a very exciting area. It's an area the industry can play a positive role in. It's work that we've commissioned that looks at how you can ensure that as international financial centres, we're leaning into providing that support for the global economy. And also in doing that, we're continuing to evolve and adapt and be successful and competitive.
Miles, thank you very much. Again, welcome to Guernsey, and we look forward to working with you in the future again.
Thanks very much, Rupert.
Thank you very much.